I still remember the exact moment my chest tightened, not from anger, not even from fear, but from something colder, something that felt like the ground beneath my life had quietly shifted. It was supposed to be a proud day, a father's moment, the day I asked about my son's clinic grand opening. The very clinic I had poured $340,000 into, only to be met with a smile that didn't belong, and words that didn't feel right. "Why do you need to know?" she said. At first I thought I misheard her. "You don't expect distance from your own blood. You don't prepare for it. It doesn't cross your mind that the same hands you held when they learned to walk would one day close doors you helped build. My name doesn't matter. What matters is this. I gave everything I had to my son. His name is Ayan. From the moment he was born, I carried this quiet promise inside me, that he would never struggle the way I did. I wasn't rich. I didn't come from comfort. Every step I took in life felt like walking uphill in worn-out shoes. But when Ayan came into my life, that struggle finally felt worth something. He was a gentle child, observant, quiet in a way that made you feel like he was always thinking 2 steps ahead. I remember nights when he'd sit beside me while I worked late, his small hands flipping through old medical magazines I'd bring home from the market. "I want to help people," he once told me, his voice barely above a whisper. That was the moment the dream took shape. Not his alone, but mine too. Years passed, and I watched him grow into that dream. Medical school wasn't easy. It drained him, physically, emotionally, but he never gave up. And I was always there, not just as a father, but as his silent backbone. When he struggled with fees, I sold a piece of land I had kept for years. When he needed better books, I cut down my own expenses. When he doubted himself, I reminded him who he was. We didn't talk much about sacrifice. We didn't need to. It lived quietly between us. Then came the idea of the clinic. It wasn't his idea at first, it was mine. I suggested it one evening while we were sitting on the balcony, watching the city lights flicker to life. "You don't have to wait years to start something of your own," I told him. "You're ready?" He hesitated, not because he didn't want it, but because he knew what it would cost. That's when I told him I would help. Not a little. Everything. The number, 340,000, didn't come easily. It wasn't sitting in a bank waiting to be used. It was built from years of saving, selling, and letting go. I let go of things I never thought I would, but I didn't feel loss. I felt purpose. When construction began, I visited the site almost every week. I watched the walls rise, the rooms take shape, the signboard go up with his name on it, Ayan Medical Center. Even now, just thinking about it, I feel that strange mix of pride and something else I couldn't name back then. Maybe it was the first crack. Around that time, his wife Zara became more involved. Now, don't get me wrong. I welcomed her into our family with an open heart. She was confident, well-spoken, and had a way of carrying herself that made people listen. In the beginning, I thought she was exactly what Ayan needed, someone strong enough to stand beside him. She started attending meetings with contractors, then suppliers, then slowly decisions that Ayan used to discuss with me started happening without me. It wasn't sudden. It was subtle, like being gently moved out of a room you didn't realize you were leaving. "Zara understands the business side better," Ayan once told me casually. "She's just helping things move faster." And I nodded. Because that's what you do when you trust someone. You don't question every shift. You adjust. Still, there were moments. Moments when I'd ask something simple, like the progress of equipment installation or the hiring of staff, and Zara would answer before Ayan even opened his mouth. "Oh, that's already taken care of," she'd say, smiling. Always smiling. Too smooth, too controlled. But I ignored it. Because I believed in them. Because I believed in him. As the opening date got closer, I noticed something else. Distance. Not coldness, not rejection, just distance. Calls became shorter. Visits became less frequent. Conversations that once stretched into hours now ended in minutes. "They're just busy," I told myself. It's a big responsibility. And maybe it was. But something inside me had started to feel unnecessary. The day I finally decided to ask about the grand opening, I wasn't expecting anything extraordinary. Just a date, a time, maybe a small role standing beside my son as he opened the doors to the future we had built together. I called him first. He didn't pick up. So I went to the clinic. It was almost complete. The glass doors reflected the evening sky, and the signboard gleamed under the lights. For a moment, I just stood there, taking it all in. This was it. This was everything. When I stepped inside, I saw Zara at the reception desk going through some papers. She looked up, surprised, but only for a second. "Oh," she said, her tone polite but distant. "You're here." I smiled. I was nearby. "Thought I'd check in, see how things are going." She nodded, then went back to her papers. I waited a moment before asking, "So, when is the grand opening?" "That's when it happened." She paused. Not long, but long enough. Then she looked at me, her expression calm, almost rehearsed. "Why do you need to know?" The words didn't hit me immediately. They floated in the air between us as if waiting for me to understand them. I just thought... I started, but the sentence didn't finish itself. She leaned back slightly, crossing her arms. "It's a professional event," she continued. "We're keeping it limited. Doctors, partners, investors, people involved." People involved. I felt something tighten inside me. "I invested in this clinic," I said quietly. She smiled again, but this time it didn't reach her eyes. "Yes," she said, "and we're very grateful for that." Grateful, not included, not acknowledged, just appreciated from a distance. At that moment, the glass walls of the clinic didn't feel transparent anymore. They felt like barriers, like I was standing outside something I thought I belonged to. I looked around, the reception desk, the waiting chairs, the polished floors, and for the first time, none of it felt like mine. Not even a little. "Where's Ayan?" I asked. "He's busy," she replied quickly. "Meetings. Final preparations." Of course he was. "Busy. Always busy." I nodded slowly, forcing myself to stay composed. "Tell him I came by," I said. "I will," she replied. But something in her tone told me she wouldn't. As I turned to leave, I caught my reflection in the glass door. I looked out of place, like a guest who had arrived uninvited. And that's when the question finally formed in my mind, the one I had been avoiding all along. Had I just funded something that I was never meant to be part of? I stepped outside, the evening air feeling heavier than before. My phone buzzed in my pocket. For a second, I hoped it was Ayan. It wasn't. It was a message from an unknown number. I opened it, and what I saw made my hands go cold. My hands didn't just tremble. They felt like they no longer belonged to me. The message was short. No greeting. No explanation. Just a single image attached. I stared at the screen, my breath shallow, my heart refusing to beat normally. It was an invitation card. Elegant, minimal, expensive. At the top, in bold lettering, "Grand Opening, Ayan Medical Center." Below it, a date, a time. And then, the names. Not mine. Not even mentioned. Instead, it read, "Hosted by Dr. Ayan Khan and Zara Khan," followed by a list of special acknowledgments, local business partners, medical representatives, even people I had never heard of. But not me. Not the man who sold his land. Not the man who stayed awake through years of sacrifice. Not the man who built this dream before it ever had walls. My fingers tightened around the phone as a strange silence filled my chest. Not loud, not explosive. Just hollow. There's a kind of pain that doesn't scream. It just removes something from inside you and leaves the space empty. I don't know how long I stood there outside the clinic. Minutes, maybe longer. Cars passed. People walked by. Life continued as if nothing had shifted, but everything had. I went home that night without calling Ayan. Not because I didn't want to, but because I didn't know what to say anymore. For years, words between us had been easy, honest, natural. Now they felt fragile. Like anything I said might shatter what little remained. The next morning, I woke up earlier than usual. I didn't sleep much anyway. The image of that invitation kept replaying in my mind like a quiet accusation. Maybe there was an explanation. Maybe this was all just a misunderstanding. That's what I told myself as I made tea, as I sat by the window, as I watched the sun rise over a city that suddenly felt unfamiliar. By mid-morning, I couldn't take it anymore. I called him. This time he picked up. "Hello?" His voice sounded rushed. "Ayan," I said, trying to keep my tone steady. "It's me." A brief pause. "Yeah, Dad, I was meaning to call you." Of course he was. "I went to the clinic yesterday," I said. "Oh," he replied. "You should have told me." I was busy all day. I noticed, I said quietly. Another pause. Longer this time. Then I asked the question that had been sitting on my chest since last night. When is the grand opening? There it was. Silence. Not confusion. Not surprise. Just silence. It's soon, he said finally. We're still finalizing a few things. I closed my eyes for a moment. I received an invitation, I said. That changed something. I could hear it in the way his breathing shifted slightly. Oh, he said again. You did? Yes. Another pause. I was going to talk to you about it, he added quickly. When? I asked. No answer. Ayyan, I continued. My voice softer now, not angry, just tired. Why wasn't I included? It's not like that, he said a bit too fast. You know how these events are. There are limited spots, and we had to prioritize. Prioritize what? I interrupted, not raising my voice, but feeling something inside me finally push back. People who invested? People who supported you? People who stood by you? That's not fair, he replied, his tone tightening. Isn't it? I asked. The line went quiet again, and in that silence, I realized something. He wasn't struggling to explain. He was choosing what not to say. Zara has been handling most of the arrangements, he said after a moment. She thought it would be more appropriate to keep it professional. Professional. That word again. I let out a slow breath. And I'm not part of that? I asked. That's not what I meant, he said quickly. You're my father. Of course you're important. This just isn't the kind of event for what? I pressed. He didn't finish. He didn't need to, because I understood. I wasn't the image they wanted to present. I wasn't the polished partner, the strategic contact, the right kind of presence. I was just the man behind the curtain, the one who made it possible, but didn't fit the picture. I see, I said quietly. Dad, don't take it the wrong way, he added, softer now. This is just how things work. No, this is how things change. That's what I wanted to say, but I didn't. Instead, I asked one final question. Did you agree with this? That one mattered. More than the invitation. More than the money. More than anything. Because if this wasn't his decision, then maybe there was still something left to hold on to. But if it was, I didn't want to complicate things, he said. Not yes, not no. Just avoidance. And that was enough. After we hung up, I sat there for a long time, staring at nothing. It's strange how clarity doesn't always come with loud realizations. Sometimes it arrives quietly, like a door closing in another room. That afternoon, I did something I hadn't done in years. I went to the bank. The same bank where I had transferred most of my savings to fund the clinic. I wasn't angry. I wasn't planning revenge. I just wanted to understand. I requested the records, the transfers, the agreements, if there were any. The clerk recognized my name, smiled politely, processed the request, and when the documents were placed in front of me, that hollow feeling returned, because as I flipped through the pages, one detail became painfully clear. There was no formal agreement tying me to the clinic, no ownership, no partnership, no legal acknowledgement of my contribution, just transfers, large ones, repeated ones, given freely, trusted completely, and now, unprotected entirely. I sat there, staring at the final page, my reflection faintly visible on the polished surface of the desk. This wasn't just distance. This wasn't just a misunderstanding. This was something else, something deeper, something that had been building quietly while I chose not to see it. I folded the papers carefully, placed them back on the desk, and stood up. As I walked out of the bank, the world didn't look different, but I did. Because for the first time, I wasn't thinking like a father. I was thinking like someone who had just realized he had given everything without ever truly being part of it.